back to another episode of my Victorian Sims 2 challenge. We are here today with the Jung household, and yes, you may have noticed that my hair is lavender. If you don't like it, please lie to me because it took 7 hours. The Jung household is a little bit on the loud, wild, and really crowded side, considering the fact that we have Lee's brother and his family. And the last time we were here with this household, we actually had triplets, which I'm still not emotionally recovered from yet, if we're being honest. And so we can see here, this is Mr. Bao, and he is actually a pretty good father, which is great because they got a lot of kids. His wife, May, is doing a lot of glitching and crying at the moment. She seems to be struggling a little bit with life post-pregnancy, especially since for a very long time they only had their one daughter, Wenling, so they're not exactly like totally adjusted to their new life as parents of triplets yet. But thankfully for them, we have a full household ready and willing to help out. You can see Peter is actually doing a good deal of the dishes. Unfortunately, we also end up with some kind of terrifying moments because the house is just so chaotic that I can't keep up with it. And we almost have another house fire, which I just can't. I can't with fires anymore. We've had so many in New Whitby and Streamford Cross recently, and it kind of makes me a little bit crazy. This is Willard. So Willard is actually the Jung heir. This is Peter's eldest son, and he's absolutely adorable. He does a little bit of dancing to his father's piano playing. Lydia is really enjoying her life as an aunt at the moment. They only have 2 kids, so they actually have a pretty small family, like immediate family. So this is their eldest daughter. This is Evelyn. So we have Evelyn and Willard. And Lydia really did want more than 2 kids. However, they didn't exactly get blessed with multiple children after dear Willard. So unfortunately, they are pretty much done having kids. They're kind of to the end of their adulthood, which means because I have like ACR and Intimidator and stuff, I think it's an ACR function, but their actual fertility does sort of decrease as they age. May, however, is still unfortunately fertile. Very, very fertile. And we are kind of on the cusp of having so many kids that I would love to just move them out. Willard, thankfully, and Wenling actually have the same birthday, so cute little cousin birthday moment here. And I think Wen is going to be a good little knowledge sim. She did a lot of like reading as a child, and for Willard, I'm honestly not totally sure what I want to do with him. I'm thinking popularity sim just because I think we don't have quite as many. Here is Wen. She is absolutely adorable as a teenager, and I think she's going to be a really great addition to the neighborhood. I don't totally know what we're going to do with her yet, but as a little knowledge sim, I suspect we're gonna have some fun with her. And here's Willard. Honestly, I think Willard looks exactly like his father. He looks so much like Peter. It's kind of crazy. And of course, here's May and her hubby having a little makeout in the middle of the kitchen while their daughter is taking care of the babies. So the triplets' names are Yan, Tao, and Min. So we have a lot of them. I forget who is who because I'm very good at keeping track of triplets, but I'm sure they'll differentiate a little bit as they age up. Peter and Lydia also have a little bit of a moment, and we'll kind of leave them to their privacy here. And so we actually also have a couple Lawsons visit, which I totally wasn't expecting. So we have Theodore come and visit, and Archie. Archie is the little ginger kid here, and they just kind of have a call to celebrate some birthdays. They do know the Jung children, even though they're not exactly in the same like social class scenario, but they do kind of build up a friendship with Wen and Evelyn. And especially Willard, now that they're actually the same age. They don't go to the same school because all of the Jung and Bao children do go to the local Chinese school that is run by, I believe it's their aunt. So I'm not necessarily hoping that any kind of like courtships are going to actually develop from this, just because of the social class differences. However, you can see that marriage is on the girl's mind, especially Evelyn, as she's a little bit older than when she's been a teenager for a couple sim years at this point. So it's starting to sort of come up for her. The household is so big, and honestly, it's kind of, I think, time to actually do some like renovations. I would really love for the Jungs to actually be able to get their own dining room, which is separate from the kitchen, because as you can see, the kitchen area and the dining area is just so chaotic. So we do also have the triplets age up. I spared you all 3 of their birthday scenes, you're welcome. And so this is little Yan, and her uncle Willard is honestly such a good uncle. Is that her uncle or is that her cousin? I don't know. We're gonna call them cousins just because my brain decided to not function there. But you can see that he's actually taking care of a lot of the kiddos. He's picking up a lot of responsibilities around the house. He's honestly a little bit better than his father when it comes to household stuff. Here is Tao, the only boy. So Tao is the boy, and then we have Min and Yan, who are the girls of the triplets. Wen is of course having an absolute blast hanging out downstairs. She is very excited that her cousin Willard is taking a lot of time with the triplets because she has been spending so much time with them and has done so much work with them. And to kind of reward the teenagers for picking up around the house, being generally like really good Sims, especially for the Jungs, I do send them out to a public lecture. So in the early to mid 19th century, a lot of like public speakers would come around and have like public lectures, like masters would go around and speak on varying topics, and a lot of people would attend these lectures for like public edification, learning things. And so you can see this is actually Percival Jung, so that is Birdie's son, with Della. And we actually have a maid here, so this is Meredith Ellis. She is from the King household, and she's doing a little bit of a lecture on cleanliness. And so I decided to have like a couple of the teens here. You can see that it's just Lydia who is chaperoning the teens at the public lecture, and we have them at one of the local parks. I think this park is probably one of my favorite things that I've ever built. I actually really love it. And they even get to hang out with their cousin Percival for a little bit. Percy and Willard have a little bit of a cute cousin friendship, and they actually do hang out quite a bit. I have this kind of like modded podium, and so they sort of like get grades for things, which I think actually makes up for the fact that I let all of the teenagers skip school today to actually come to the public lecture. The public lecture is kind of put on as like a community event. The mayor in town, Harrison Lawson, is the one who started asking people like, hey, would you be interested in giving a lecture? This is not Harrison, this is Nathaniel. He's not the mayor. I honestly thought he was going to be mayor, but it turned out that his younger brother Harrison had all the votes, and so it went to Harrison instead. But he's here to support his brother. This is Harrison. He's kind of enjoying the picnic areas around the public gardens and is overall just kind of admiring the fact that he put together New Whitby's very first mastery lecture. And I hope this is something we can have repeated often. If you guys have any ideas about like types of lectures we could host, I'm very interested in hearing your opinions. And Wen, of course, being honestly one of the most proper Sims, I love Wen, she's wonderful, goes up to thank the mayor for hosting such a wonderful event. She loves learning, she loves the edification process, and ideally she'd love to be a teacher one day maybe, or like actually present on maybe her family's culture at one of these public lectures. Of course, that's maybe not actually going to happen for her, but it's a possibility, especially considering the fact that the very first lecture was performed by a woman. That's probably not like necessarily historically accurate, but it's what we decided to do for this neighborhood, so sometimes we gotta throw historical accuracy out the window because it's The Sims, and if we can live in a world where it's a little bit more gender equal than, you know, historically accurate, why wouldn't we? So back at the household, we've had a full day. The kids have been gone with Lydia, and she is still doing some working around the house. She's making some Cornish pasties for the family for dinner. She has to cook really big meals. I actually wound up downloading a mod that allows you to cook like, I think it's 8 servings per meal, which in a household like this, which I think has 9 Sims, it's really something useful. Lydia, of course, is actually a very playful sim, and so she does get a few spare moments in the bathtub having a little pirate dance, enjoying herself and the solitude, the rare moments of solitude in this house. Because Lydia and Mae haven't really had a lot of one-on-one time, because they're constantly child rearing, they're constantly taking care of the house, and there's been a little bit of tension, honestly. They have a lot of negative interactions, and so I really wanted to have these two actually go out, have a little tea date, and just kind of get to know one each other, because it's just been like, it's been what? This is our second rotation with the Bows living with them, and these two haven't had a single moment to actually just kind of like chat and rest. And especially because Mae definitely needed to get out of the house with all the triplets, even though I think Mae actually is the person who interacts with the triplets the least out of everyone in the household. Like, honestly, it's mostly Willard. It's mostly Willard and it's mostly Lydia. And so I don't know exactly what's going on there with Mae, why maybe she's not connecting with her kids. Maybe it's a little bit of like a postpartum depression kind of situation, because we did see her crying a good bit at the beginning of the episode. We also saw her just generally like not having a really great time. So getting her out of the house was probably like the best call to sort of get her out of her head, maybe just like kind of refresh after the birth, because I can't even imagine how traumatic a triplet birth must have been. Like, imagine the exhaustion, imagine the overwhelm, especially in an era where you couldn't really plan for that. Finally, these two seem to have broken the ice and actually do kind of get along. And that's really wonderful to see, because I honestly kind of thought that this relationship was sort of doomed from the start, just based on their previous interactions with one another. But they actually end up retiring outside. After their tea, they play some games. Mae shows her gratitude to Lydia by having a bow, and although Lydia doesn't totally understand it, she does bow back to offer her respect and thanks. Willard invites over Ida Philippa Elmstone from school, and I think he actually has like a little bit of a crush on her based on the interactions that I have seen them having with one another. He's really attentive to her autonomously while she's over at the house. I kind of figured she was going to hang out more with Wen or Evelyn, but like they actually get along really well. Unfortunately for Willard, I don't think that's a courtship match that is actually going to work out very well, considering the fact that there is a very vast social class difference, and the Jungs do have a little bit of a stigma associated with them based on a lot of previous things. Unfortunately for Willard, like, none of these things are his fault. It's all based on his parents, it's based on Jonah, Birdie's issue with like the whole arson case with Birdie's sister, Mary. Ida does end up kind of sitting with the women, but lo and behold, poor Willard is bringing up engagement and marriage to her, which is like, dude, chill out. You're probably gonna freak her out. This is like the first time she's met you. Like, but then they end up kind of talking about the family reunion that the Lawsons had recently had at their household, and so I think for both of them, family actually is really important. Unfortunately, some of the stress revolving around taking care of the triplets has really gotten to Lydia. We can see her actually ending up crying a good deal in the kitchen. I mean, to be fair, this household is just a little overwhelming. She ends up actually doing a lot of the repairing around the house, and so normally with my Victorian Sims, I let the men in the household do a lot of the repairing work, a lot of the mechanical skill work. It is now winter, and the toddlers are fast aging, they're fast growing, and Willard is still being the world's best cousin slash uncle, and it's actually time for them to age up into children. I can't believe it. The time has just gone by so swiftly with these three. You can see that they're actually thinking about their cousin Willard as well. Unfortunately, two of them age up very negatively, which is really unfortunate, considering the fact that they immediately start going into full-on brawls. Surprising to no one, Tao ends up winning. And they're really cute kids. Like, I really do like them, but unfortunately, they're already getting into fistfights. You can see poor Mae here feels like a fish out of water. She doesn't even know what to do about the situation. Things are just very stressful indeed. Now, it is also time for another birthday. I know we have a lot of birthdays to cover today, and it is Peter's birthday. He ages up into an elder. It's kind of crazy for me to think about the fact that he is an elder and his generation are becoming elders, because he's Gen 3. Gen 3 is aging into elders. I can't even believe how quickly things have gone. So that is going to be where we end off for today's episode. I hope you liked hanging out with the Jungs. We had a little bit of a calmer episode today, which I think honestly we all kind of need with everything that's going on right now. So thank you all for hanging out with me today for this episode. I hope you have a great one, and I will see you next time. Bye!